John will tell us in verses 9 through 27 more specifically what this city will be like, the temple and dwelling place for God. But for now, he writes in verse 3 what serves somewhat as an introduction to those comments that will come in the subsequent weeks. These are old covenant truths presented in new covenant realities. And it's God who's speaking here, I believe, when he says, behold, the place of God is with man. Behold, the place of God is with man. He will dwell with them and they will be his people, and God himself will be their God. You see, God is always. He has always. God has always. Did I say always? God has always intended to dwell with his people. We must not get this point misconstrued or twisted, for this is the great reality that can be traced throughout the entirety of the Bible. We see him walking in the cool of the day in the garden, making himself known and dwelling with, to some degree, cohabitating the same space as Adam and Eve there in the garden. In Exodus 26, he lays out articulate and specific desires for his temple, in which it can be articulated to people through symbolism and structure and sacrifice, the real necessity not only for them to have a relationship with God, but the means of them having a relationship with God, that God wants to be known. He revealed himself in this way, in intricate and articulate and specific ways, so that they would know he intended to and desired to dwell with them. And John, in his very gospel in chapter 1, in verse 14, says that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. So the point that John is making in his gospel account in chapter 1 is that God has pitched his tents among us, in our campsite, close to us, making himself known. Why? Because God intends on having a relationship with us. He wants us to be reconciled to him. He wants us to approach his throne with boldness and not timidity. And the only means of that being possible is if we receive, accept, commit to, and in faithful service follow his Son Jesus, of whom is his likeness, the very imprint of his nature and character. John, with his ear to heaven here, hears the words of God given to us today. Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man.